movie has such a killer soundtrack that it omitted the one song that was perfect for this movie. You had one job, David Leitch. One job. One job! You failed me, man. You know what that song is? Fits in so perfectly. How was it omitted? I don't know. This movie gets an automatic F for that matter. I'm gonna say Bullet Train belongs in popcorn hell. Yeah, shortest movie review ever for the sake that it didn't have Crazy Train on its soundtrack. See you guys. Have a good one. See you at the movie somewhere. Crazy Train or Bullet Train, I guess that's what it's called. I mean, you could call it Crazy Train because it does take place on a train full of a bunch of crazy people. So yeah, Crazy Train's a good substitute. If they do a sequel, you call it Crazy Train and finally put that Ozzy Osbourne song in there. But we're going to call it by what it's actually called, and that is Bullet Train, directed by David Leitch. I don't know, I feel like I'm going to say his last name differently in this entire review. Just know that he's the director of Atomic Blonde and Deadpool 2, and I think he co-directed John Wick 1? Movie stars Brad Pitt, Hiroyuki Sanada, Joey King, Andrew Koji, Brian Tyree Henry, Aaron Taylor Johnson, and Brad Pitt plays the unlucky assassin Ladybug, who is determined to do his job peacefully after one too many gigs gone off the rails. Fate, however, may have other plans, as Ladybug's latest mission puts him on a collision course with lethal adversaries from around the globe, all with connected yet conflicting objectives on the world's fastest train. Now, when I saw the trailer for this movie, I was like, that's just gonna be a super over-the-top, stylistic action movie, and that's really all I want from it. If it can entertain me with some really cool kills and some great action, that's what I'll take away from it. I could care less about anything else, and this movie marketed itself as it should. This movie knows exactly what it is. This is a very stylistic movie. It's a really action-heavy movie. The action is very kinetic. It's over the top as shit, and that's exactly what I wanted from this movie. It knew exactly what it had to be for me. It feels like it occupies a space in the mid-2000s where we had some of those like action movies that were released in the mid-2000s, like Wanted comes to mind. Smokin' Aces comes to mind. Feels like stylish like that. And honestly, with David Leitch or Leitch, however the fuck you say his name, with him directing, it evokes a little bit of Deadpool 2, but it also evokes, with the structure of this movie, it also evokes Guy Ritchie. Like, if I hadn't known that David Leitch or Leitch hadn't directed this movie and somebody told me, look, you gotta watch this Bullet Train movie, it's directed by Guy Ritchie, I would have totally believed somebody if they told me that this was directed by Guy Ritchie, because it totally feels like a movie that Guy Ritchie would direct. Brad Pitt is great in this movie. I actually really like Brad Pitt's comedic chops in these last couple of movies he's made. He showed that he had the comedic chops in The Lost City, and he shows he's got the comedic chops here. I mean, I kind of liked his character. His character seemed like he was a bumbling idiot, but like, he played it very cool, you know? It seemed like he was like the best, worst assassin ever. And Brad Pitt sold me on it. I'm like, there's nobody else right now that I would want playing this role than Brad Pitt. Joey King, I wanted a little bit more from her character, but her performance was really good in the movie, and I liked what they ended up doing with her character in a way. At the end, I was kind of like, all right, like for a movie that relies so heavily on action and style and not so much on substance, which is by design, and I like that, I don't really like the plot connection that they make with her and another character at the end. But she was great too. I want to see her make more movies like this. I think she's been making way too many of those kissing booth movies. Get out of that nonsense and can continue to make this shit, please. Thank you. Brian Tyree Henry and Aaron Taylor Johnson. Holy shit. These guys stole the movie. They had all the wit. They had all the great dialogue. The banter between them, back and forth, was hilarious. If they want to make a spin-off featuring just these two characters, I'm totally down for that, and call that spin-off Crazy Train. Their back and forth was just so dynamic, so hilarious. There was some gut-busting laughs with every line they were saying. It got to the point where it was pure hilarity, and that's what I loved about this movie. It knew the tone it had to take. It didn't take itself too seriously. It was over the top, stylistic, bloody at times, but the action knew what it had to do to entertain you while infusing comedy into the mix And that just made this movie a whole lot more entertaining. I can already see those film bros, and I don't use the word film bro lightly, because technically, me, myself, I'm a film bro. But, you know, like those hardcore film bros, like, you know, like the people who just watch Francis Ford Coppola movies, or Scorsese movies, or, you know, Spielberg movies all day. Look, I love all those directors. They're all great directors, but but it's like the people that only watch those movies, they'll be like, actually, the action in this movie is so unrealistic that you can't actually do that, so, this movie isn't, up to my standards. And I feel like that's what critics kind of judge this movie based on. I mean, it's not getting really great reviews. I've seen really mixed across the board. I think it's like a 50-something on Rotten Tomatoes, 49 on Metacritic, and I'm just like, I don't get it, because let's just face it, you know, from a critical standpoint with this movie, the plot is a complete and total fucking mess. It's convoluted as shit. There's like 900 dominoes trying to fall into place to try and connect everything, because everybody has all these reasons that they're on this bullet train, but all these reasons have to be connected. It's the Charlie Day thread meme that everybody throws around. But it got to a point in the movie where I didn't care about that. And I feel like critics just check out of a movie sometime if the plot isn't up to their standards. And I feel like with a movie like this, like, it's supposed to be a mindless, turn your brain off, just sit back and enjoy the ride until the end of the line, no pun intended, actually, probably, type of movie. And I think critics just missed the mark on that one. I think that they were actually expecting something a little bit deeper, and that's my issue with film criticism sometimes, because me saying that a movie doesn't have a plot is not typical of me, or I can just kind of forget about the plot. But me sitting here saying, like, I just kind of forgot about it after like an hour into this movie and was just really there, just chomping on my popcorn, having a good time, watching hitting, kicking, punching, shooting, all types of ings happening on screen. That I felt all those shots, bruises, and bumps, and scrapes, and all the blood coming off of the screen. Like, I felt it. I felt it in my chair. I was visibly getting hurt. Like, that shit looked like it hurt, man. Like, I was that entertained. The characters were unique. They were witty. They were their own thing. Like, not a single character in this movie was the same, and not a single character wasn't fleshed out. I do have a gripe with any of the characters. I mean, Hiroyuki fucking Sanada is in this movie, and he gets sidelined. If you're casting Hiroyuki Sanada in an action movie, use him to the best of your ability, to your full advantage. This man is sidelined for most of the movie. And I'm like, why? He's Hiroyuki fucking Sanada. He was in The Last Samurai, damn it. He does get an action scene in at the end, but I was just like, I wanted more from that man. From another critical standpoint, the visual effects towards the end did not work. This gigantic action sequence happens, and when I saw CGI Brad Pitt flying through the back of a train, I was just like, ooh, that looked rough for 2022 standards. You know, that was rough. And I mean, you could tell that the front of the train, when it's Brad Pitt against the front of a train and you can see out the windows on the front of the train, you can tell it's green screen. Like, you can tell there's nothing there. It's just giant green screen with CGI filling in all of that. So it was a little bit rough there, and I wish that the third act of the movie had more oomph to it. The action scene that took place in the third act was cool, but I didn't think it matched the intensity of the action in the first 2/3 of this movie. I was more entertained by the first 2/3 of this movie rather than the last act of this movie. And that's not to say the last act of the movie is bad or anything. I mean, that's where they try and connect everything together, and I checked out at that point with the plot. I really don't give a shit. I just wish it had a little bit more energy to it. I wish it was a little bit more over the top, like the stuff that we got in the first 2/3 of the movie. Bullet Train is everything I wanted it to be. I wanted it to be a movie that was so over the top, that was so stylized, that was just so in-your-face entertainment, that occupied a space in the mid-2000s slew of action movies that brought me back to my teenage years watching action movies, and that's exactly what Bullet Train did. I liked a lot of the characters, I liked the action, David Leitch or Leitch does really good job handling these types of movies. He's the perfect director for this. I didn't care about where the plot went after a while. It's not supposed to be a movie where you're supposed to follow the plot as much as the movie is trying to convince you to follow it. Just turn your brain off. It's a turn your brain off type of action movie, and I was here for every second of it. And I will say I really enjoyed Bullet Train with 3/4 worth of a bucket of popcorn. I will also say this, it's like an adult version of Thomas the Tank Engine, and the best episode of Thomas the Tank Engine ever produced. You'll get what I mean after you see the movie. So if you have seen Bullet Train, I want to know what you thought of Bullet Train. Drop me your opinion to the movie in the comments section below. I will leave my link to my website in the description below as well. You guys are the best. Thank you for watching. My name is Alex Madden, and I'll see you at the movies somewhere.